Spontaneous democracy. Democracy may arise in various ways. It may come to exist, unintended and unopposed, in the generative order of society, by a brotherly identity of impulse and interest, like that of crawling cubs in a litter, a concord which rivalry has not yet disturbed. So, leaves of grass that sprout side by side without too much crowding, bend and sway like a unanimous people. What, indeed, can blades of grass do but grow all more or less in the same direction under the same influences? But animals, also, though they have the power of locomotion and are intrinsically independent scouts, will sometimes compose a natural democracy, not dominated merely by their herd instinct, but having a common object in view. Shipwrecked sailors, for instance, in a boat, though there is likely to be some boatswain or some temperamental leader to seize the tiller and shout unauthorized orders, yet will not resign their private intention, each to save his own life in his own way. And it is in this boat that each sees his best chance. Therefore, any usurped authority over it will be instantly challenged, unless it coincides with the judgment of all. The democratic distribution of supplies will thus be enforced under the sharp and knowing eye of all those involuntary comrades. No unruly conduct will be allowed, and no course taken without the tacit consent of a clear majority. Brotherly democracy also makes its appearance at certain moments in the lives of pioneers. There may be some semblance to blades of grass in their individual independence and apparent freedom from all ties, possessions, or prejudices, and there may be some semblance in their lot and in their meeting to a boatful of wrecked sailors. Yet nothing brotherly, no common memories of affection appear in their respective ambitions. They are not met to help one another, but each is there to help himself, and to help himself to the largest possible portion. This mate, who today may be an independent ally, tomorrow will be your rival. You will be good neighbors so long as it pays, but you make no vows of eternal friendship with any casual neighbor. You may find yourself shooting him the day after tomorrow. There is a curious mixture among adventurers of good fellowship and bitter rivalry. Talk round a campfire must not be thought to reveal fundamental motives. A rough tramp may be sentimental. Under fire, he may be heroic, but he is out on business. He is on the make. Such a vigilant, casual society, to become a political democracy, requires the absence or suppression of willful, ignorant, or frantic individuals who cannot feel the grave need of order and equality in a common plight. At close quarters, in a ticklish predicament, unanimity is imperative in action, no matter how absent it may be in thought. Tyranny, the tyranny of events that must be foreseen, or if possible, circumvented by human intelligence, will then be felt hanging over this company of political equals. And the moment land is reached, or its sails headed, the bottle breath of all these mute captives will burst out in invective against one another and against heaven. I say against heaven, although some god may be verbally thanked for having saved them. For when the secret forces that govern events are felt close at hand, but not closely distinguished, a sense of helplessness, of injustice, and resentment pierces them through all the veils of convention, and the radical nature of things is frankly blamed by those rebel wills for its cruelty. Worldly democracies of the spontaneous kind, idyllic or recovered in the extremities of fortune, exclude almost all the passions of passionate man, yet by their simplicity they please him an idea. Any moral, political utopia may be advocated in opposition to the special vices of one's own society. The difficulty lies in catching such a moral meteor and caging it in an earthly system of government. Yet this sometimes seems to occur. The more rural Swiss cantons, for instance, present the classic picture of democratic simplicity, comfort, and peace. Yet from that paradise, the more adventurous spirits do not cease to escape to the towns and cities in the lower valleys, where the society is much like that of the rest of distracted Europe. There remains, to those who prosper in business or in the professions, the satisfaction of breathing the free air of their mountains, and of escaping service in the foolish wars of the great powers. Its notorious in the middle of the 20th century, between a democracy formed by the concourse of adventurers migrating separately into a new and relatively empty world, and a democracy of crowds accustomed to troop and armies or in gangs of workmen, like flocks of sheep scientifically guided by expert shepherds and their well-trained sheepdogs. Originally, the American colonists breathed independence and individuality, religious and political, at the same time, feeling confident of their vocation and ability to grow rich and to save their souls with none but divine guidance. Their zeal for democracy had a political root also in their Protestantism. They remembered the revolt of their kinsfolk in the old country against ecclesiastical and royal despotism and against landlords. In this sense of ancient grievances was kept alive by the daily defiance of all barriers that might block a man's way in his private enterprise, especially so long as experience proved that the more successful each man's enterprise was, the more favorable paths it opened to the enterprise of others. The Russian democracy, on the other hand, has been dominated by conspirators, themselves perhaps dominated by ideologies. Personal ambition and apostolic zeal were inextricably blended in the leaders, and while they were not without a certain congenial or mystical sympathy with the people, they remained essentially politicians, counting not so much on the loose, lost orphans of society as on the organized working class that could be indoctrinated, trained, and mobilized into a political army. In spite of this diversity of origin, I think that the two kinds of democracy may generate similar regimens. Both aspire to be universal, and under either of them, if absolutely dominant, mankind might become safe, law-abiding, sporting, and uniform. America has the radical advantage of being a democracy by nature and habit, at least in respect to the dominant types in the population, all having been adventurers, voluntary colonists, thirsting for independence combined with readiness to work hard, to surmount difficulties, and to prosper. The presence of hereditary wealth in alien races or religions have been only marginal dangers, ignored officially, or felt to contaminate hopelessly the political and personal equality of all regions and classes. The demand for unanimity within democracy was felt only in matters of industrial and social morality, and the deepest or wildest contradictions in opinion and sentiment were passed over as unimportant. In fact, they have been largely concealed and neutralized by the diffused cordiality and good humor of American intercourse, which can skim the surface of business and pleasure without concern, without time to consider any hidden dangers, and to perceive a decent equality without imposing any constraint. The guiding policy has been not to suppress originality or wealth at the top, but to diffuse a complete education and a substantial comfort from the bottom upwards. If these and other measures succeed in preserving what existed originally only in separate local communities, a general moral and social unity in the United States, now explicit in the policy and legislation of the whole nation, the very object will be attained here that the Soviet government is striving to establish by force throughout its possessions. The end there would have been attained by harsh means, whereas in America it had been achieved by social contagion and attraction, and this would no doubt leave its mark, in each case, in a different quality and degree of union. But this is not the Russians' fault. They are heirs to autocracy and religious dogmatism, to both of which the people are accustomed and probably have no objection, rather perhaps instinctive attachment as to a just and worthy authority. And since their future autocracy would have freed them from their past regimen, economic, military, and ecclesiastical, the new form of all-pervasive authority under which they would now live might seem to them perfect freedom for so much in human nature as is just and good. And would this not be exactly what the Americans of the future would say of their competitive society of perfectly educated and legally disciplined equals?